Good morning, good morning. I hope everyone can hear and see me. Please let me know if the audio or the video is off. It seems to all be fine at the moment. Okay. Hello to the regulars. Ted1775. Just a Guy. David P. How are you? Solitary Mission. Landis. Coffee. All right. As usual, talking about the recent videos, most notably this one. And first off the bat, I want to say that I wasn't making fun of anyone in particular. A lot of guys thought I was, I think, making fun of Richard Cooper. I'm not. I don't have a beef with any of the guys. Yeah, obviously, there's not going to be channels that I say, you know, they're completely parallel to mine. And I think this is maybe a problem that a lot of people have. They can't accept, you know, someone who's slightly or a lot different to what they are. You got different channels that give different messages in different ways, and they help guys at different stages. So for instance, my kind of content isn't really going to help particular types of guys. And let's face it, most people out there aren't interested in self-reflective content and pointing the finger at themselves, not always having to rely on the world to change for your life to get better, not always having to rely on women to change or the laws to change so that you can blindly make choices without any consequences because everything outside of you will protect you. So there's different people, like, for instance, there's certain channels that are great for guys who have just discovered the truths of, women compared to what their family and the advertising tells them, that women are sugar and spice and all things nice. And they really, really believe that, and they've got faith in that. And then sometimes it just takes one really awful relationship when you're younger or even not so young, and it's kind of like finding religion. And you find out that, oh, this is the way the world is. I had a fantasy in my head, and people aren't, women out there aren't like my, mother who loved me and respected me. You've got all sorts of people. So you've got channels that really serve that guy who's just had that cold water splashed on his face. And it's a perfect content for him. Whereas my kind of content just sounds like Japanese to them. They can't understand it. Anyway, if you want to ask me a question during the stream, if you're here during the stream, like Ted here, add a couple of brightly colored circles in front of your message, preferably like a yellow one, a really bright yellow, orange, or red one, because I'm reading this stuff on a dark screen. So let's see. Here, we've got a question. Hello, human. Honest question. What would it take, in your opinion, for nuanced discussion to once more be a dominant medium of sharing ideas and personal experiences within the manosphere? Right now, every piece of content is clickbait, sensationalism, sort of extreme stuff. So the most popular channels, it's not just self-help, manosphere, it's the extreme stuff that will make us say, OMG, right? So we all want tranquil, calm, stable, predictable, routine lives. We want calmness in our lives. That repetitive calmness isn't great. Imagine you watched a TV series or a movie where it was just a guy sitting on a porch, scratching his dog's head, not saying a word, and his life was great. You'd switch that off after about 10 minutes because nothing's going on. Unfortunately, People want stories with conflict. That's the way stories are written. You need some sort of conflict in them, some sort of drama. And so if you're going to watch something, people are just wanting to be entertained. So unfortunately, it takes the will of the person to want to have a serious discussion. You can't make people have these kind of discussions because ostensibly they are very boring compared to, the train wreck stripper who lied to the 10th guy and took, his kids away again, and she's got 8 kids and she's on child support, and combined with all her kids, she's earning, 6 figures, and she's a real manipulator. So it's unfortunately, you can't force people to want to find this interesting and important. I don't know what it would take. You would hope that after, the restrictions that we had only a year or so ago, that a lot of people would have taken stock and, when you watch those disaster movies, when the human race just avoids a massive disaster, they always like to think that we all band together, we learn a valuable lesson, and at the end of the story, we all move forward, taking 10 leaps forward in progress, and we'll be forever changed for the better, and we'll never go back to our old ways. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen. Most people don't get their act together, and they're 5-year-old kids thinking they've got all the time in the world, and they wait till they're 60 and they're diagnosed with cancer or something, and then they want to be open and let down the suit of armor and be vulnerable and all that stuff. I know it's not easy because a lot of this stuff is unconscious defense mechanisms we sort of put in front of ourselves. It's our lizard brain protecting us, and then our brains justify wanting to feel the way we feel, wanting to feel the way our primitive brains and emotions are feeling. But it takes you to always be exercising your prefrontal cortex, your front brain, and always be conscious. No, this isn't right. I've got a feeling, this is an old feeling that I don't like anymore. Like, you've always got to be thinking and practicing this stuff. If you go on autopilot and you're always just going with the flow, you do what your friends do, people are conditioned by the media. They're kind of a 5-year-old that's just kind of led along by mummy and daddy, and mummy and daddy is all the messaging out there and all your friends. You've really got to always be aware of, no, I know what they're saying. I know what women are saying. What do I think? What do I think? What do I think? You have neurotically, almost at the start, you have to neurotically always be saying, yeah, hang on a minute, but what do I think? Let me take a minute. What do I think? With everything. And after a while, you don't have to stop yourself. That's the reflex. What do I think? I'm here. I'm part of this relationship. It's not just about her. I'm not always going to be stressed about whatever's being shown to me in the media, telling me what I should and shouldn't do. So it takes a bit of practice, but after a while, it gets easier. It's like any muscle you exercise. That muscle gets stronger and it becomes a reflex. Hello, Adam Super AC. How are you? Ted 1775. No, I don't sell any soap. Rocket. I would say that your channel is not about figuring out women or life, but figuring out me. Yes, exactly, Rocket. I think we've talked about this as well. I want guys to think better, and then everything that comes from thinking better and then acting from thinking better will make a better life. I mean, can anyone actually disprove that? I mean, I'm sure there are guys will say, well, but nature, yeah, but my biology, etc., etc. Before I forget, I better put my phone on silent. I think we all know the more we take a critical responsibility with our own lives and point the finger at us ourselves first, the better things get. Dumbledore Derp, thank you for the super chat. If any of you guys who are here want to guarantee I read your question out during the stream, super chat me like Dumbledore Derp here, and I will read it during the stream. Otherwise, put 3 brightly colored circles before your question directed at me. Oscar Wilde said, "We're never more ourselves than when we are inconsistent. It's a question of when or for whom we choose to make exceptions." Yes, when we're on autopilot, we're never in much control, unless I think that, you're lucky enough to have your autopilot, always work out well, and you're always proud of your autopilot setting. But the vast, vast majority of us, approaching almost all of us, aren't like that. The only way you can get your autopilot, as I said, becoming a reflex, is if you're consciously improving upon your mistakes and not making the same exact mistakes as you did before. Make different mistakes, but have your eyes open, so that the more you're conscious, like if you're in a familiar situation or going on dates in a familiar way, you trust your instinct and what it says about your experience, and you say, I get this feeling she's the same as my ex previously or whatever. I've felt and seen this before. Let me just keep that aware at the front of my brain when I'm out there, when I'm talking to her. Let me ask questions to answer my suspicions that she is like my ex, or am I liking her in the same way as the train wreck of a relationship that just ended? The more we do this, the more we don't have to kind of stop ourselves and worry about it. It's automatic. Like, seeing, a kid run in front of you at the supermarket and just kind of sidestepping them as just like a normal reflex, like avoiding some sort of speed bump. You don't have to treat it like a tsunami. But I think we have to be conscious about these things, and being conscious about not doing the same stupid thing again that will give us the same predictable results. I think that's the only really good rational thing we can do. Not just look at the stats. You are not the stats. Or, if you go on autopilot and you believe in no free will and there's nothing you can do, yeah, you are the stats. But the more conscious you are about what you want particularly, the less the stats will apply to you, because you're not riding the wave that everyone else is. You're thinking about where you want to jump on and what you want to do. CK says, is your $1 million lottery ticket video from a few years back titled that, or is there a different title to it? I moved that video to Odyssey. Link is in my, I think there's a link below most of my videos, but if not, there's a link to my Odyssey account in my About section of my YouTube channel. It's just because it got a lot of negative traffic here, and there were a lot of guys just trolling each other and women on there. I find all this stuff, yes, it can be entertaining and fun, but first and foremost, I find this stuff important and essential and interesting. It's an important thing to discuss. You can have some fun with it. You can be lighthearted about it, but it's not entertaining to me. Not firstly, anyway. But a lot of people, it's just entertainment to them. A lot of these guys, they play Call of Duty in the same way, figuratively speaking, that they're playing men and women manosphere stuff. It's a video game. It's just another way of playing a game to them. Yeah, the philosophical amongst you out there will say, well, life is a game. Well, again, it depends on how you play it and how you approach things. Did you know, Matt? Thank you for the super chat. He or she says, what have you changed since the lockdown? Cheers. My attitude. Don't forget, I've mentioned this. My father passed away right at the beginning of the lockdowns. And so I really reevaluated where I was, and I made a choice then that I'm going to try as best I can not to lie to myself anymore. And I've done that pretty well. Again, I'm not perfect, right? Again, you go on autopilot, old reflexes come back. But as much as you can be conscious about doing the right thing, doing the thing that you should be doing, not being lazy, cognitively lazy, the better things are. So I think my attitude and my determination to be as honest as I can with my words and my actions, and not conveniently avoid fear by lexically and intellectually, word salading my way around or over or past things that I really know I should face. And I'm trying to do a lot of that through the videos and the questions and things I post on my channel. Yes, I'm talking about lying. The title of this video is, just generally, am I a hypocrite? Are you? It was mainly in relation to this video that I just did. Don't be the know-it-all guy that thinks that you learn just the key points of the manosphere. You dress, walk, and quack like an alpha duck, and then your life is perfect. It's not. Take a look at the mess of the most popular so-called alphas online. The Andrew Tates and the whatever. Like, it's a it's a bright light that burns very, very briefly. And 0.000 recurring 1% of people on the planet will ever become that person. And then why do you want to as well? For his 28 supercars? I can, okay, let me be objective here. Yeah. He's got a sharp wit and a sharp intellect. Whether or not he's a personality you want to be around is something different. But yeah, I wanted to pose this question here. Not to make fun of the guys online, but just to kind of point out how dishonest are some of us being dishonest, where we're saying we really want to solve problems, but we're just online having fun, making fun of other guys, putting other guys down the same way that we complain that women put us down in the past, that women are unfair, that women won't listen to our point of view. The amount of times I hear guys comment and troll in the comment section and making fun of a guy's situation where objectively the guy is writing from a place of pain, hurt, stuff has gone wrong, he's made mistakes, and you're making fun of this guy because you don't think you could ever make mistakes. The amount of ego. And also, it kind of shows me that, yeah, okay, you won't make mistakes because you'll never risk anything in your life to try and find a particular, part of happiness that only you can find, because you need to take that leap of faith in your own life based upon self-reflection and knowing who you are and things like that. I really don't have much sympathy for kind of trolling alpha dude bros, in case you haven't noticed. Gary says, it feels like we play on the anger and feed the ego by watching hate videos of females. Yes, it's like your last video said, we are acting like them, seeking enjoyment in their pain. Yes, one thing I don't get is how much women get off on the suffering of other people. You just need to look at them in the schoolyard, and they get together and they really pile on one girl and humiliate her, and all of them get a shot of adrenaline. They love it. And it's probably a similar feeling in incompatible relationships where they argue with people, the drama, the roller coaster, the breakup, the makeup, all that sort of stuff. And it's very antithetical to a guy who wants stability, consistency, tranquility. This is why I never really like the in-between stages of relationships where, I might go and date for a while, but a lot of guys actually love being in that space. They think it's freedom by the inconsistent fun they have with multiple people, and they think I'm free. No, you're in a very dangerous environment that could completely shatter the tranquility of your life. Good luck. And the guys that make fun of me always being a long-term guy, I like consistency in my life. Dating different women, hooking up, casual relationships. One, it requires a lot of attention through your week to peacock around, spinning multiple plates, being on that kind of holiday. It's tiring. At some point, you want to go home. I don't think many guys know where home is. A lot of these guys are spinning plates on holiday their whole lives now because this is what they're being conditioned by online. And they laugh at me. It's like, good luck. Fine. Talk to me when you're my age. Let me see how your life turned out. Sorry, I don't have much sympathy for those kind of guys because they're willfully and arrogantly conducting their lives in a manner which is like many of the women out there that we complain about. Ted1775 says, I always tell the truth even when I lie. Tony Montana. Adam Super AC. Showing feelings. The judgments could be internal insecurities from the haters. I don't know. Are you directing? Are you saying that about me or in general? I'm not showing how you're wording that. Adam Super AC, clarify that for me. I think the only thing you and Andrew Tate have in common is that you like coffee. And we shave our scalp. Yep. Boffin, how are you, man? He says, men are astute at inflicting physical pain, women at inflicting psychological pain. Men can, but I think women are naturally hardwired with it. And they, by society and other women, they train that muscle really well from birth. So the question I posed about this thinking, about this video and stream I'm making today is, are trolls just using others as piñatas simply to avoid taking the same swing at themselves, psychologically speaking? Put another way, are many of us putting people down and making fun of them in the same way we would or should be critical of ourselves if we ever had the courage to do so? So have a think about that. This is some of the self-reflection I came to. Someone asked me previously about what did I reflect on from, prior to the lockdowns and things like that. It was a lot of this stuff. It's the only way forward is to be honest with yourself, do what's right, and get rid of the fear. And not get rid of the fear by stepping over everyone else to feel better, but get over the fear by not having to do that, by not having to wear the suit of armor. Again, if anyone wants to ask me a question during the stream, if you're here, put 3 yellow circles or emojis before your question so I can actually see it's directed at me. So this stream is titled, Am I a Hypocrite or Are You? Really looking at whether or not we're being honest by the questions we're asking. Are we saying that we're interested in, men and women and bettering our relationships with or without women, the choices we make, things like that? Or are we just being entertained by watching the train wrecks on the worst kind of channels because they're entertaining? Are we just watching fights in podcasts because they talk about stats? Are we just looking at the dry math and we're not actually translating it into our lives? Because all of this information doesn't matter one little bit unless you can practice it in life. And I ask, are we being hypocrites? What is a hypocrite? A person who acts in contradiction to his or her stated beliefs or feelings. And the important thing here is acts. Because a lot of people, they boast online about what they feel and what their virtues are. But then you look at the way they speak in real life, you look at their routines, you look at how their life is designed, it does not resemble who they are online when they get on a podium in the manosphere. It's almost like they've got this like little fantasy world. I don't know. Again, I can't force people to be honest with themselves, but it's the only way your life's going to be stable and make sense and consistent. And it's also a way where you don't have to live double lives. You don't have to live a life online. You don't have to live another life out there. You don't have to live another life in front of your parents. You don't have to live another life in front of your partner and only be yourself in the shed for 1 hour at night when your kids have gone to sleep or you're away from your missus. Then you can breathe. And guys who think, well, nature, human, that's the way the world is. So it's, choose to do what you want. I know the results of choosing to do things differently and taking life as more of a skill that you can try and put your hands on rather than see. This is one of the things that I find that differs me from a lot of people. And I'm not saying I'm kind of special in any way, but when I talk to some people, I can just see in their language that they talk in a way that they're a pinball in a pinball machine. Life is just out there and they're dropped in and they have no control and they bounce around and then one day they die, right? Whereas I kind of think, yeah, life is the way it is, but I generate the life I walk through as best I can. And there's a lot of things I don't have control over, but there's a heck of a lot of things I do, and stubbornly so. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, 3 yellow emojis before your question, or super chat me and I'll definitely read it during the stream. Gary says, I don't think the cure is in being critical of ourselves like abusive parents scolding a confused child. I think we love ourselves and question compassionately when we do these negative things. Again, you might sort of see the feeling around the world, around the word critical differently to what I do. I'm thinking in the way of critical thinking. It's dispassionate, it's neutral, it's objectively realistic, right? So I'm not saying have a negative superego where you're always kicking yourself and talking down to yourself, which is another reason I posed this. I think a lot of people talk down to themselves like a awful parent, and they do that same thing with other people online. They're the trolls. They will talk down to other people and make fun of them. They make fun of other guys, other women, in the same way they talk to themselves internally. These guys put themselves down. The only way they can feel energized is to put themselves down, to put other people down, to continually fail so that they can feel energized by picking themselves up. Don't forget that most of us are just people in pain trying to find a way through life. But the more you can calm down and be honest about things, the less room you leave for the child in you to have a tantrum, So for me, do you act hypocritically? Do your words and your life look the same? Or, are they more or less on the same page? Again, they're not going to be perfect. I asked a question, a poll last night. I said, do you think a lot of people are conveniently waiting for the world to change before they start living? And that encompasses, because initially I wrote this question as in, do you think a lot of men are conveniently waiting for the laws or women to change before they actually start living their lives with them or out in the world or around them? And, what's wrong with my... It's all right. And the response I got, unsurprisingly, is yes, 86%. People are sleepwalking their way through life and looking for every excuse not to do anything. And the mantras out there are also, work smarter, not harder, which kind of starts pointing people into the direction of don't work hard, don't be lazy, do the least amount of effort. That's smart. Look at these rich people who scam and do a really easy thing and they're multimillionaires. We love pointing to them. We love pointing to the miracle. We love pointing to the unicorn. But the more we can just do the self-reflective, honest work of dating better and more consciously and honestly, where we put ourselves first and acknowledge that we have needs and our lives matter, the more we can sort of do that, life is more about skill than luck, gentlemen. And that's one thing I've noticed in the last 5 or so years. Too many people point to things that, yes, we don't have control over, and I would agree with them. There's a lot of things in life I have very little to absolutely no control over, right? But there are a lot of other, but then those people say, mic drop, everything's like that. It's a rule. It's not a rule. Life exists in the gray areas. There's some black and white things, but there are a lot of other things that are not. And as soon as some guy says, all women or all this, or you can never do X, Y, or Z, I can automatically think of things that contradict that it's absolutely not true. But I think people like very convenient, easy answers so they can sleep at night. Just the guy says, by my experience, when people, even strangers, accuse you of lying to yourself or being unwilling to challenge preconceptions, they're actually trying to control you to make what they want, make you want what they want. Yeah. They want something familiar. Most people just want familiarity. It's a very conscious thing to come to terms with. I want my consistency to be familiar. I know who I am. I know the consistency in terms of how I want my life to pan out. I want tomorrow to sort of be as consistent today in terms of my base level Maslow's, where I have a feeling of safety. I can control things, right? But you have to also accept the unfamiliarity of how people are and that everyone is different. So I think people today, especially with social media and the way most women are, they're so narcissistic and solipsistic that everything has to be a mirror of them. Otherwise they fall apart, and they fight to make everything a mirror. Otherwise, they're offended. Otherwise they cancel things. Otherwise they need a fainting couch and medication. Any more bright colored circle questions or super chats, guys? Look, I've talked about values and knowing your ethics. They're not just poetic, philosophical words. Forming your own ethical and moral philosophy is about the only control you're going to have, because everything else is pretty much out of your control. Unless you're determined to form your own ethics and develop a moral philosophy, where you stand when you deal with people, where you stand in terms of what's good for your lifestyle, where you stand in terms of what kind of woman would match with you. Unless you find that interesting and you're determined to keep doing it and keeping it at the front of how you live your life and you voice it, then yeah, you don't have much control. You virtually have none. I agree. All women, no free will. I agree. If you don't have an interest in stubbornly making sure that you're taken care of, that you exist in a relationship, that you have the right to say something if someone else says something in a conversation about their opinion. You have every right, especially if you can speak better than they can, especially if you're being fair and civil about things. If they get offended, it is not your fault if you objectively know you haven't said anything bad other than that, little snowflake over there doesn't like hearing what she doesn't want to hear. Little snowflake over there doesn't like, anything other than his religion being spoken to him, frustrates me with a large part of the manosphere, where it's just a bunch of dude bros or wannabe dude bros all trying to model themselves after the guys with the fast cars. That's all it is. Fast cars, hot chicks. That's the way to sort of have a really good, fulfilling life. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with fast cars and money and chicks and all that, but it really just avoids everything that will help you sleep at night and enjoy a life of fast cars and chicks. Like, can you imagine the average, dopey dude bro today online who's got their tongue hanging out at women and guys with fast cars, just saying, okay, now you can have Andrew Tate's life. He would implode in a week. Anyway, any more questions, guys? Look, I talk about these things like values because, are your values just nice to haves, or do they actually mean something? And if it's just nice things to talk about, this stuff is entertaining, you like getting online and chatting with guys, but once you switch the microphone off or the camera off or YouTube off, then you just go back to being the same guy. Are you living two lives? Are you living one? That might be a topic for another video or a stream. I was thinking about, in terms of hypocrisy, and this latest video I did, are a lot of guys online who are making fun of and pointing to the worst women's mistakes and the worst type of acting women and guys, are they offloading a lot of perfection onto them, onto women? Look how bad all women are. We talk endlessly about the world not listening to men and not understanding us, yet we laugh at others and we entertain ourselves by laughing at women and guys who aren't alphas. That's something to keep at the forefront. You're not, look, you can think you're avoiding the unhappiness in your life, or you're avoiding, all the speed bumps you've got in your life as you're going on in autopilot. But again, it's your life, guys. I'm not just going to entertain myself online through my life. I can watch movies, I can watch Netflix, but I can't do it all day. I have to get groceries. I have to maintain social relationships. I have to kind of, as Karu would say, go out there and touch grass. Otherwise, you're not going to last very long. Mr. Highway, thank you for the super chat. He says, people think they can turn their humanity off. Life happens. Even Jesus wept. Everyone's a stoic until they are locked in a room with a 7-foot gorilla. Yeah. Or locked in a small room with a huge elephant that they pretend doesn't exist. Again, I just can't struggle anymore with guys. There was a saying like, you can't help willful stupidity, or you can't do anything about willful ignorance. Yes. I addressed this, Ted. I wasn't trying to make fun of anyone in particular. I wasn't trying to make fun of Richard Cooper or anyone. I was just taking all the cliches of all these alpha dude bros and all these guys that they just bang on about the same 5 bullet points. Money, women, fast cars. It's just all about, it's nothing about the psychology of a man or being a better person or addressing who you are and self-reflection. It's all about moving the external chess pieces around in life to get what you want, moving women around, moving businesses around, moving things like that. So in all honesty, if we want to talk about this picture, I just kind of put elements of aviator sunglasses, although they're not aviators, are they? They look more like wayfarers. I put sunglasses, shaved head, big beard, cigar, and a big bathrobe. So it's a conglomeration of, whether you want to call it Hamza and a whole bunch of other people, but all of these kind of guys that are spouting memes about how to be the best version of yourself or an alpha guy, but they're not actually talking through their own language. They're just spitting out memes. They're giving you a familiar one-liner of what you want to hear. I actually think this illustration turned out looking much more like Jack Donovan. And I like Jack Donovan, actually. I wasn't making fun of anyone, But it turned out much more like Jack Donovan, if I must say. So I like the way it turned out. I think it was one of my better illustrations. So I'm not saying don't be this guy pointing to anyone. I'm saying don't be the cliche, the cartoon. Don't be the meme spitting 10 bullet points of success kind of guy. Because you'll just be you'll be another lemming, but a lemming that's just got like 3 buttons that really you haven't put there. You're just doing what works, and if you weren't addressing yourself before, you're still not addressing yourself by making yourself into a caricature of a successful guy. You've got to make yourself into a successful Joe, Bob, Frank, right? Not a successful man. In business, maybe where opinions count and a lot of those things translate into what you find valuable. And in terms of business, whenever I hear people say, well, women are too risky, 60% of marriages end. All the alpha guys, the dating, the life coach dating guys, they're always banging on about starting businesses and making money, but 9 out of 10 businesses fail, whereas only 6 out of 10 marriages fail or relationships fail or whatever. So the odds of business, everyone's pushing guys to business, but that's the biggest risk of failure. And most guys can't recover from that when they go all in and put their life savings into that. So it's just kind of interesting. I just think that the more skillful and honestly you go into anything, and the more you take calculated risks where, okay, I'm going to go into it and I'm well aware if this fails, it fails, but I'm not going to pretend I didn't choose this with my eyes open. There are guys that go into it blindly and then blame women or the system, but not blame themselves for going in blindly. You know, you can say, well, I was 18 years old and naive. Yes, you have more of an excuse there. But when you've got a guy in his 30s, 40s, and 50s, especially after he's had a couple of marriages and been with women a fair bit, and even now, even if he hasn't been in relationships, if with all this information online, you've virtually got no excuse to do what you want, again, from monk to marriage and kids, right? Do whatever you want. Like, I am not against anyone doing whatever they want. What I really wish people would do was think better about what they really want and go about it the best way possible. So they're not going in it drunk, they're going in it sober, and then admitting where they failed, if it failed, or when they succeed, they can proudly say, well, I really did this with my eyes open. I know there was a risk. And that's the kind of mentorship you can impart wisdom to guys. You can say, yeah, it is risky, but let's talk about how you go about things. Let's talk about thinking better about these things. Personal decisions have the most risk attached to them because they're so meaningful for all of us, guys. And you can't offload that responsibility to stats and all women and the laws and hypergamy and biology. You just can't. They form a very, essential foundation to sort of being aware of, like, most women and their nature and what you're dealing with the system and laws. Yeah. Now, when you walk through that, or if you choose to, how are you stepping? How are you conducting yourself? What words are you saying, and what words are you stopping yourself from saying that make the environment out there look more like a landfield, a minefield? The way you conduct yourself as you go through life and the decisions you make, if you don't talk, if you don't say your yeses and your nos, wherever you walk seems more like a minefield, unless you just close yourself off behind a screen. Yeah, then it's safer. But if you're going to live in the real world and touch grass and have to go to work and earn a living and go to the supermarket, the degree to which your world looks less like a minefield is the degree to which you know yourself and you can speak your yeses and nos. Questions. Landis, have you told your girlfriend about this channel? How does she feel about it, as most women would probably disapprove of it? She knows about my channel. She knew about my channel right from the beginning when we got serious. Gary says, seems to me the alpha dude bros around the vids just flaunt their own insecurities, hides the deep pain inside. And a lot of them are very business minded. Let's not forget that. I'm being objective and, you know, I don't like the deception though. So they're spouting off the same 15, you know, clickbait titles that work, that guys want to repeat and talk about in terms of women, money, success, becoming an alpha, gym, all that sort of stuff. In a business type model, they just cycle those things as templates in all of their videos, and it works. A lot of the successful ones, and I can't blame them, they've got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, if not millions, and they've got a business model. They earn money from that. They know a lot about it, and they just keep memeing their way through their videos, which is fine. They've got charisma. Again, I don't hate any of them. I'm talking from my wheelhouse, what I find important, how I want to speak. Yeah, whether or not they have their own insecurities, but yeah, let's be honest, having a lot of money diminishes your insecurities. I'm not going to deny that. Jack, the degenerate, says, what do you think the black PILL gets wrong? I think they're just too glibly deterministic. The degree to which they just discount the free will or choices or handles you can put on the world. King G, MGTOW and girl power is now a business. The product is a dream. The sales tactic is a constant negative stories of women, men to induce fear and anger. Yes, this is true. There is also a strong sense of group identity that is borderline cultish. Yes, I agree. I agree. Oh, I can't pin a super chat. I wanted to pin your comment, Ken G. But I agree. Okay. Questions. If you want to ask me questions, 3 circle emojis before your question, please. Question. Jordan, turning 35 this year, never married, no kids, no real long-term relationships, find dating to be a chore. Have I given up too early? I can't really speak for you, man. I think the more we honestly self-reflect, but also not in our own little bubble, try and talk to people you trust, family, friends. Really, don't make a permanent decision on your life in terms of if you feel things aren't good, if you're always uneasy, if you're always trying to find the same, you're always trying to answer the same questions in the same way and it's not working and you don't feel at ease like it works, keep looking. I don't know how to answer the question, Jordan. I'm not sure, but make a choice. And really honestly make a choice. Say you do or don't want to have relationships. You'll find it a chore. Give up for a while. You know, hit pause. You can always revisit later. I know we like finding perfect lifelong, you know, answers, but it's really not what life's about. Life is about just making choices. There are no real answers, as Stanislaw Lem famously put it. Just the guy says, just because you deem fast cars as silly or regard certain lifestyles as shallow, that doesn't mean that's an absolute truth. Some will find it fulfilling and there's nothing wrong with that. I agree. I like fast cars. I've got a fast car. I never, yeah. I don't find it silly. And let's not forget, everyone, even if people say, I think this is silly. That's my opinion. Why do people take it as though, I'm making laws that everyone's about to live by and they have no choice? Again, whatever I say or anyone says, if you're really annoyed and it really infuriates you, look at your reaction. Why are you so? It's a degree to which you think, I think, that you have little control. This person says something, they have a platform, they have a YouTube channel, and I'm really annoyed because he's forcing me to live a life a certain way, or he thinks he doesn't like cars. He doesn't like this, he doesn't like that. I'm really annoyed that he doesn't like what I like. Who cares? Mr. Highway says, I think the sphere got corrupted by capitalist psychopaths. Yeah, and also the platform itself is only rewarding those capitalist psychopaths. Let's not forget that. And channels like myself, they continue to make different content. And after a while, if it gets throttled, if it actively gets censored, if it just kind of is getting chipped away at, and they're also almost forcing you to either play the psychopathic capitalist game or disappear, go away. It's like a company forcing someone out of a job that they can't fire. They're making it so difficult that you give up. So the only way is like that you search out YouTube channels that are important to you, that you share videos around that you think are important. Otherwise, just entertain yourself with the reality TV style channels that you have been, and stop complaining. I'm not talking to you guys, but just generally, all these guys pretending to care so much. Oh, women and the world and laws, and can you believe this woman, what she did to this guy? And it's like, you look at all the channels they watch, from the Fresh and Fit to the Pearls to the whoever, they're just having fun, entertaining. It's lighthearted to them. They're not really using it as personal self-help. Then admit that, but don't get on your podium as a guy and say you really care, where I look at all of your browser history and it's just, it's just extreme entertaining kind of garbage. And then when it really kicks you in the stomach, then it's important to you. And then you want it fixed, and then you'll just go back to your entertainment again. It's like, well, whatever, dude. Nadine, thank you for the super chat. She says, the dude bros have made a killing on playing on men's fears and insecurities. It's really destructive to men's well-being, and it needs to stop. It stops as soon as guys stop watching it. I know it's addictive. It's like McDonald's. It's like, oh, there it is. Let me just get a burger. The more you can drive past it without giving it your money or your time and attention, the less it's going to irritate you. But you can't keep eating junk food and then simultaneously picketing with signs that McDonald's should be closed down. No, McDonald's should exist the same way you should exist, and every point of view should exist. I don't think censorship, I don't believe in the censorship. I believe in freedom of speech. So I think if people just can't stop watching the train wreck, you have to have the discipline to stop watching the train wrecks online, in the same way you have to have the discipline to stop dating the train wrecks and to start saying your yeses and nos. It's comfortable to just be washed over with the entertainment of reality TV and extreme cases and think you're being educated by saying, I'm watching the worst kind of women, so I know how to avoid a hot mess. They're not the problem to an intelligent guy who's starting to take responsibility. The problem is wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, when you watch serial killers documentaries and then they show them in the courtroom, they look like a normal guy. They've got the glasses on and like they just look like a quiet nerd that never gave anyone any trouble. They're the kind of women, if you translate that's the sociopaths you see in documentaries, translate that to the normal looking woman that every guy finds uninteresting to, talk about and read between the lines and really know what they're going to do with someone who looks normal. The only thing you can do is start talking and asking questions, keep them at a distance before you can start trusting them to reveal the potential sociopath that you might be going out with. But no one cares about that. No one wants to talk about or make videos about the normal looking nerd that could be a sociopath, in the same way they don't want to talk about the normal looking girl who could ruin your life. No, they want to talk about and show women who are really hot, who are loudmouths, who chuck tantrums and make the worst kind of videos. Those are the women you think you're calibrating yourself to avoid. You're leaving yourself open because you're going on dates saying, well, she doesn't look like a clown and she doesn't talk and act like a clown. Therefore, she's potential long-term material. She's not. There's so little long-term people out there for you, mainly because most women out there, the majority of modern women out there are not dateable and they're useless for long-term relationships and you can't even trust them. But also because you narrow it even further, you have to find a specific person that matches your compatibility. So we get rid of all the potential partners out there who are just, who need to be in a psych ward, who are narcissistic, and they've bought into this capitalist system that that Mr. Highway said that the guys do, but also women do. They're very Machiavellian. They're very shrewd. They manipulate. They just want to get what they want to get. You get rid of all of them, which is the majority of society that's available to date, right? You get rid of like 80 to 90% of them. Then out of the 10%, you have to find a specific narrow doorway of what's compatible with you. So you've got maybe 10, if I'm being generous, 20% in society that's normal. And I've dated some normal women that weren't compatible for me and it turned into a nightmare. It ended. It was a mess. I wasted my time and they wasted theirs, right? So out of the 20% that is not trash, then you've got to find the specific compatibility for you. That comes by talking, keeping your eyes open, really working out and taking the time to find out if they're compatible. So out of that 10 to 20%, there's maybe 5% if you're lucky, that's good enough for long-term compatibility. And that's the kind of thinking and talking I want to have conversations about. Some point of views don't tolerate any dissent and they're taking over society. Yeah. Yes, he has. Neil Strauss has. Yeah, me too. I like helping others, but first and foremost, you're not helping anyone if you're completely being punched out and knocked out by not having any boundaries. Some of your questions, guys, I don't know how to answer them, so I'm not avoiding them. I would just be saying, I don't know. Any final questions, guys? And let's wrap the stream up. Mr. Highway left a really nice comment under the recent, what am I pointing to? Under this video. He said, this space was supposed to be about freeing men. It wound up becoming a prison instead. I think he's talking about generally the male self-help, relationship space that used to be, say, back in the day, more MRA or MGTOW. Now it's just become a prison. It's become a beautiful screensaver on the surface with nothing underneath as soon as you move the cursor. As soon as life kind of knocks a guy around a little bit, he realizes all of the space he was in, the fantasy world, is just a screensaver. How long have I been streaming today so far? Nearly an hour. Hey, let's end the stream in an hour. I've always liked to end the stream in just under an hour. Any last questions? We've got a minute. Any super chats? Do them now. Any questions? Ask me a question with 3 yellow emojis, and let's wrap this up. Are we being hypocrites? Not you and I, but generally. Let's keep ourselves frosty, as Hudson would say in Aliens. No. Capone and Hicks would say in Aliens to Hudson. And let's be honest with ourselves. A lot of the chicks out there wouldn't get that reference. But if you're an Aliens fan, it's the only movie that I've actually watched in the cinema multiple times. I think I watched Aliens when it came out. I watched it in the cinema 7 times. Now tell me, who would go to the cinema 7 times today when you've got, streaming and downloads and big screen TVs? I barely go to the cinema at all unless it's a big screen movie. Overcast pea soup day with a big blanket of grey clouds in Melbourne, in case anyone is interested. Okay. Ted1775 says, are you going on Gilded right after this? Yeah, I'll jump on Gilded after this. After the stream, give me 5 to 10 minutes to kind of just wrap things up, and I'll jump on Gilded for any of you with a microphone. My previous Discord channel got nuked by a lot of idiots saying and posting really awful things that would get any channel banned. And because I just made it a free space for anyone to say and do what they want, people abused it. And, my channel my Discord server got nuked. So I think Gilded is a lot more open-minded. And so there's a link in my About section to my Gilded account. So if you've got a microphone and know how to use it, and please, don't talk over anyone, give people a chance to speak, jump on there after this stream if you have a microphone, and I'll jump on there as well. Hit the like and subscribe button, guys. If I could sort of encapsulate my channel in a sentence or a paragraph, I would say first and foremost, it's a video journal. It always has been, for my thoughts and me working out, my own things with relationships in my own life, whether it's primarily with women, and how I go about things, the choices I make, what's honestly the right thing to do, changing the dials and adjusting how I used to do things to maybe how I can look at things differently. But overall, it's just to help me think better, and maybe as a consequence to share that and help men think better as well. Because I'm always wanting to responsibly think better for myself first, and then as a consequence to the people and the life around me that I interact with. So any last questions, guys, and let's wrap this up. Salem says, hello, human. What do you think about the women's body count and them being imprinted by that one Chad? Well, again, if a woman's negatively affected by that, if she avoids that and pretends everything's fine, and she's affecting every relationship after that, it's her issue to fix. There's a lot of us, men and women, who keep sweeping under the carpet the things that we don't want to talk about or address. And sometimes we don't know how to work it out, but the best thing you can do is acknowledge that it exists. Yes, this happened. Yes, this affected me. Yes, this was really crappy, and I still think about it. Yes, and even with me, I try, as a way of being honest with myself going forward, if I got into conversations on a date with a girl, with friends or anyone, and we touched on a subject where my mind thought about, yeah, this was a sore point in a past relationship for me, I would talk about it, not pretend to be tough when I wasn't, but I would talk honestly about things. And when you go on dates, talk about those. If the subject comes along and they're talking about a particular issue about trust and things like that, and you get a vision or a thought that pops up in your mind where it really was an issue with your ex and it caused you to break up, and why you have issues about these things, talk about them. If you sweep them under the carpet, you are hiding them from yourself, firstly, and then you're giving a false impression to the other person. Just in the same way we don't like a false impression from women to us, and we blame them from not being honest, if we do the same things with ourselves, we're hypocritical in blaming women for not being completely honest. And let's face, women are so evasive generally. That's how they survive. We are asking them to be far more honest in the way they conduct themselves than they've got the ability to, but we should be much more honest, because it's essential for us. Because if we're not honest with ourselves as guys, we're homeless. There's nothing beyond us. Women can lean on men, but we lean on nothing. So I think we're asking women to be much more honest than they're capable of being. And I'm not saying to absolve women of responsibility, but I'm saying don't go on a date with the posture of a 5-year-old and she's mummy and you really want her to love you no matter what and be completely honest with you, because in a Freudian sense, mummy would. Ted1775 says, in Alien, Ash represented corporate paranoia. The Ash scene was creepy as hell. Which one was Ash again? I haven't watched Alien, the first one, Ridley Scott's original, for a while. Jack says, do you think falling birth rates and all the following consequences is enough reason alone to ask men to take that risk? No, again, these are kind of world-building questions. I'm much more interested in you making a courageous personal decision to do what you want. If you want kids and you know that life's meaning resides there, go about it the best way you can. I'm not saying you need to, but if you're compelled to, don't do things for this. I mean, for me, it's kind of, you're living like a cog in a machine or a lemming. You know, what's the difference with guys sleepwalking through life the way they are now online to guys sleepwalking through life and just doing what biology wants you to do? You might as well just go to arranged marriages, not care about what you desire. You know, no, don't go to the supermarket buying your favorite chocolate ice cream. Just buy vanilla ice cream. Just buy what someone tells you to buy. Do what people tell you to do. And yeah, just see how much you enjoy life as well. There's a lot of choice in life that people don't want to acknowledge that they have, but then they don't allow themselves to have similar choices in life because they're not confident. They don't trust themselves. There's so much of the conditioning of guys today, especially, where they're just demoralized, where they don't have just the confidence to say, yeah, I like this and I'm going to own it. And I'm going to own any failures that come through this as well. Ash was the human android spy aboard the Nostromo. That's right. Yeah. I actually watched Alien, I think that original. I watched it about 2 weeks ago, I think. Anyway, guys. Yeah, Mr. Highway says it's simple. Do what you want to do. You're free to. Yep, it's as simple as that. You want a philosophy that's free? Pick something and then be responsible and live with it. Make a choice and live with it. And you can go, well, I'm not sure yet. It's got to be a perfect choice. Yeah, you can spend years looking for the perfect choice as life passes you by. If we could freeze time while we perfect a choice and then hit the pause button and then let life continue, that would be one thing. But there's no pause button. As we're planning, we're given less and less times to enact the plans that we're forever making. That's why I want guys to be as smart as they can about planning, speaking, and then making choices. Because as I said, the definition of a hypocrite is a person who acts in contradiction to his or her stated beliefs or feelings. Whatever we might believe today, whatever we might pontificate and say, yeah, men, women, stuff, are you talking, speaking, and acting that way in the world? Because the way you act makes all the difference. What we believe and what we say, they're just words. They don't mean a lot. If you form a bridge between your beliefs and your actions, that's where it matters. Life's action at the end of the day. I think it was Aristotle. I can't remember. Quasimandias would be able to confirm this. He sort of said that ethics must be action, otherwise they're not ethics. Something like that, where it's just a philosophy. If your philosophy translates into life, if you act your philosophy, if you speak your philosophy, if you make it real, if you grab hold of it in life in some way, then it becomes real. Otherwise, it's all thought. It's all what we want to be, what we'd love to do. It's the diet we want to start next week. So figuratively speaking, the more we can start our diet today and start doing it, the better. Dumbledore Derp, gonna read my super chat. Did you super chat me, Dumbledore Derp? Let me go back. I'm sorry. I can't go back any further. Dumbledore, can you copy the wording of your super chat again and I'll read it? Just copy it with 3 yellow emojis. I apologize. And I'll read it just before I end the stream. So just write it again. Hopefully the algorithm doesn't spot any awful words. So while Dumbledore reposts his comment, what can I do? I can just reiterate this. I'll let you read it. Don't be too quick to emotionally sort of put others down, guys. One thing I do find cringeworthy is guys acting like women in the schoolyard and getting off on putting other guys down, especially if you can tell that the guy's really going through a lot and you're feeling better by putting him down, especially if they're being genuine. Dumbledore, was this your comment? A wallet, vampire, and xenomorphs, they mostly come... mostly. Newt! I know what that was. Newt said that in Aliens. Was that your comment, Dumbledore? Is that what you paid a super chat to tell me? To quote Newt in Aliens. Wallet, vampire, and xenomorphs. He's equating most gold-digging women out there as aliens in the Alien series. All right, guys. Any last questions? I don't think there are any. Let's wrap it up. We've gone just over an hour. And for some of you who have a microphone, I'll see you on Gilded in about 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll chat with you guys for a little while. Otherwise, have a good Sunday or Saturday night or afternoon for the rest of you. All right, guys. Bye.